That's how you can understand each of these tags better. Welcome everybody. Welcome to the session. In this session, we'll continue from where we stopped. Um, in the previous session, we looked into the some of the different URLs that included the links, images, okay, and in case of links, how you can give the path. So when we are referencing certain resources, either we can give it as an absolute path. Okay, absolute path is like you will give the complete path, including the protocol, domain name, any paths or resources that are required, so that you can give the access the path of the complete web application or the website. Or you can use the relative referencing. When relative referencing is useful, whenever you are referencing the resources within our own domain or own application, relative referencing can be used. So we will see some examples of the relative referencing. So if you want to access any folder which is under the current folder, we will use the /. If we want to access any folder which is at the parent level, that is above current folder, we will use the .. This is the example we saw yesterday. For example, if you want to access the resources on the same folder, suppose here we have example here to link example.html from about.html. About.html and example both are at the same folder or the same level. We can directly give the name of the other resource when we are giving the href value. Href is equal to example.html. So because it is available in the same folder, we can directly reference. The next, if certain resources available in the subfolder, for example, from about HTML, we want to access the logo.gif, which is in the image folders. This is the images folder, and we want to access logo.gif from here. So you will say images / logo.gif. That is how you will give the href. That is the reference. href is equal to images / logo.gif. Suppose if it is this resource background.gif, you want to access from the about.html, then you will say if you see from about.html, we have css folder, then images folder, then resources available. Then you will see href is equal to, inside that two double quotes, first you will give css / images / then background.gif. You can see here. Similarly, if it is a parent, then you will use you are trying to access a resource which is at the parent folder, then you will say .. Okay, if you use one pair of .. it will take to the parent folder. If you have one more .. it will take to the parent of that particular folder, and then it will access the particular resource. Then sibling directory. Sibling directory means what? The two directories are at the same level. From any resource, let us say we will take the example from this folder, whatever the example, logo.gif from index.html. Where is the index.html? Index.html is inside the members. So from here we want to access the logo.gif. Logo.gif is here. Now from index.html, in order to access logo.gif, I have to go at the parent level. So I will say .. I will come to the root level, then / images / logo.gif. That is how we can access. .. / images / about. And one easy method, if you are getting confused with all these things, for when to use /, when to use .. the simplest method is always start with the root. Okay, so you start with the /, that is the root. Then you will say, suppose you want to access this particular file from anywhere, you will say / css / images / this background.gif. So If you are getting confused, always start from the forward slash. So if you want to access any of these resources, you say forward slash index.html, irrespective where you are trying to get these resources from. If you are trying to access any resource under this, you will say forward slash images forward slash logo dot gif. That is how you can have a relative referencing. Inline text elements. Inline elements do not disrupt the flow of the text. So what is the meaning of the inline elements? They will not disrupt the flow of the text. Whatever the text content you have, it will not make a disruption. It will have everything same. For example, the disruption of the text is, let's say it breaks the line, right? You have a certain text, and after using this inline element, it gives a break in the text. So if that doesn't happen, those are called inline elements. Examples, there are many inline HTML elements, more than 30 elements are there. Some of the examples are anchor. If you remember, we have seen anchor inside some of the sample examples we saw. This will not make any disruption. If it is used inside a paragraph, if it is used inside any other HTML element, the text flow will not change. Similarly, this br, em, and strong, this will not cause any disruption in the flow of the text. Next HTML element is the images. How to include the images in your web application or the website? The tag img inside the angle bracket, that can be used to have the images inside your web application. Okay, sorry for that. While the image tag is the oldest method for displaying an image, it is not the only way. So this is the one way to have the image displayed, but that is not the only way. For purely decorative images such as background, gradients and patterns, logos, border, art, and so on, it makes semantic sense to keep such images out of the markup and CSS where they more rightly belong. So certain places we want to have a image can go as a semantic, or image can go as a decorative. Okay, if it is a decorative, most of the time decorative means you want to set some background image, or some kind of a patterns you want to use, some kind of a logo, different kinds of borders you want to have. Those can be go as a decorative images that does not get linked with the structure or the semantic. Those can go with the CSS. But certain images, the content goes with the meaning of the or the semantic of that particular web application, then we have to use the img. But when the images are content, such as in the images in a gallery or an image of a product in a product details page, then img tag is the semantically appropriate approach. For e-commerce website, for each of the product you have images, so those images, they are there to add a meaning. So semantically they are required there. So that time you can use the img. And other if it is used for the decorative or other purposes, we can use the css. This is the how we can use the image html element. So it starts with the open angle bracket img space source. Source will give the location of the file, that is the image file. Okay, uh, here you can say images forward slash central hyphen park dot jpg. This is the place where you can find the particular image. When you give the path like this, again it's a relative path. What we talked about, it's a relative path. Now what happens, wherever the html is there which is having this particular html element inside it, it will look in that folder, it will look for the images folder, and inside the images folder it will look for the this particular file. So src it specifies the URL of the image to be displayed. Now, suppose this image is not loaded onto the browser for some reason, okay, either it is not present or some other reason, then this will give the alternate text for that. Okay, that attribute is alt is equal to, inside the two double quotes you will give the value. So if you see here, this is one of the standards that are specified by the XHTML to include the value inside the quotes. So you can see this is a very good practice. When you have the attribute is equal to, inside the double quotes you put the value. So here inside the two double quotes you provide the text. If the image is not there, this particular text will be displayed. Text in ALT attribute provides a brief description of images content for users who are unable to see it. Then we have a title. Text in the title attribute will be displayed in a pop-up tooltip when user moves the user moves the mouse over the image. So you have an image, and whenever user moves the mouse on top of that particular image as a tooltip, this information, whatever is included in the title, that information will be displayed. So Central Park, whenever user moves his cursor on top of that particular image, he will see the Central Park. Then width. So what is the width of that particular image, you can specify. Okay, and this would be in the pixels. So this would be 80 pixels and height is 40 pixels. So width attribute and the height attribute, this specifies the width and the height of the image in pixels. Okay, so if you want to see certain example, we can do that. Okay, already we have the sample doc. I will take that. So in this, I have one image here. Okay, so you can see this is the image. I have specified the width, I have specified the height, I have the title as Central Park and alternate text Central Park. Then the source IMG. So I have the folder called IMG. Inside that I have this particular image. So let me open this HTML in the browser. This is the file. Now you can see this is the one which provides the image. So the minute I move my cursor on top of the image, you see a tooltip is popping up as a Central Park, right? And that is given by the title. Okay, if I change that text, I will say this is Central Park. Just you will see whether that changes will appear or not. I will reload the image and I will hover over the image. This is Central Park. And if you want to change width, let us say I will make it little bigger, 300 and 200. Save it. You can see the image got little bigger. And let us say this particular image is not available for some reason. What you see is the text which is coming from the ALT, because what I did was I gave the folder name as img1. I don't have the img1, so it is not able to find this particular resource. That is when it will display this particular alternate text. So you can see the description of the image. So you can include the description of the image, what image you want to. Suppose you have a product laptop image, you will then have this is a laptop of this configuration, all that. In case particular image is not getting loaded, they can have that information provided in the ALT attribute. Next we move to the lists. Okay, lists are very important HTML element because invariably we will need to have a list of elements. So whenever we have a list of the items, it is very easy to read, very easy to comprehend. So there are two types of list that can be used in HTML. One is called as a ordered list, and second one is the unordered list. So unordered list, there are certain items which do not need any particular ordering. For example, we have different departments in engineering college, so there is no particular order. So all engineering the departments, we have computer science engineering, civil engineering, so there is no need for a particular order there. So whenever we don't need any particular order, then we will have the unordered list. And then certain things are there where we need the actual order. For example, weekdays. Okay, weekdays cannot be in a random order, right? So there is certain order. Then months in a year, there is a order. So there are certain things that require a ordering. So unordered list, collection of items in no particular order. These are by default rendered by the browser as a bulleted list. Whenever we use the unordered list HTML element, it will be shown with the bullets. And whenever we use the ordered list, so ordered list is what? A collection of items that have a particular order. There is a particular order, and these by default they are rendered by the browser as a numbered list. So there will be 1 2 3 4 that will be defined, that will be displayed on the browser when it renders ordered list. Definition list, collection of name and definition pairs. These tend to be used infrequently. Perhaps the most common example would be a FAQ list. So apart from these two lists, ordered and unordered, we have the definition list. Definition list is more like it is a most commonly FAQ, where you have a question, then you have a description. That kind of a things is can be used using a definition list. This is the example code. This is the UL. UL stands for the unordered list. So this is how we are going to use the list. This is the beginning of the list. Inside the angle bracket, you have UL, unordered list. UL list, it starts here, it ends here. The end should be /UL inside the angle bracket. Between the starting UL and the ending UL, we have all the LI, that is list items. LI stands for the list items. Whatever you want to see as a list, that will go under the LI. Okay, that is the tag. So inside the angle bracket, we have LI, and this is the closing LI. Inside the angle bracket, we have /LI, and in between this LI, we have you can have a text or any other HTML element, whatever you want to have, you can have it here. The first one, what we have is it is a link. What we included here is a link. So this is the beginning of the link. href is equal to, it is referring to index.html on the current server, and this is the closing of the opening tag. In between, I have a text home and closing anchor. So then we have the closing LI. Next one is next three are the simple text. Okay, inside the LI elements, HTML elements, I have about us, products, and contact us. When we have a unordered list like this on browser, it will be displayed like this. The first one, it will be having a link. Whenever you take your mouse there, you can make a click on this particular home. When you click on that, index.html will be opened, and rest two are just the rest three are just the text. This is how unordered list will be displayed. This is the example of a ordered list. OL. O stands for ordered, L stands for list. OL inside the angle bracket. This is the beginning and this is the end. In between this ordered list opening tag and the closing tag, we can have n number of LI. Okay, LI is the list item. So you can see here the first list item. This is the opening LI, closing LI, introduction, background, my solution, Then we have one more li which opens here and it closes here, and inside this li I have one more ordered list. So this is the beginning of the ordered list inside this li, and this is the closing order list. Inside this ol opening and closing we have other li. So this items methodology, results and discussion. So and that's closing ol and closing li. So inside this list item I have one more ordered list, and next one, last one is the li conclusion. It belongs to this ordered list. If you render it on the browser, this is how it will look like. So introduction 1 2 3, 1 2 3, and after the 3, after my solution I have one more ordered list. Inside this ordered list, when it comes to another ordered list, again this will start from 1 2 3, 1 2 3, and it ends 1 2 3. And this outer ordered list, it is not yet complete. It displayed this li, this li, this li, this li. So this li is still pending. So this is 1 2 3, and this is fourth one. So you can see 1 2 3 and fourth one is the conclusion and the closing of the ordered list. Okay, I will show you one example for this. I have a file called as a list.html. I will open with Notepad. Okay. Here you can see the complete HTML document. I have HTML, opening tag, closing tag. I have body, opening, closing. Inside here, I have a H3 header, demo of list, and UL, unordered list. I have first one is a li, and this is a anchor HTML element I have, and the content text is given as home. Next is about us. So whatever the example you saw, it is the same example. I will open this in HTML in the browser. I will go back. This is the list.html. So this is how it is looking like. So you can see home, about us, product, products, contact us, and there is a empty li. So this is the empty li. So if you don't want to include anything, then you can have empty, or if you want to have one more, and just add that, then XYZ. Similarly, for the ordered list, I have the ordered list here. Let us open. This is the same code what you saw in the presentation. And try to experiment whatever the code is there. You can just do the little bit experimentation. This is demo of ordered list. I have li. So here ordered list. My solution, I have ordered list. Let me open this in the browser. This is ordered list. I click on that. You can see here 1 2 3. Then inside 3 I have method 1 2 3 and my solution. If you see, this is little bit different from what is in the code. So in the code there is one more li here, and after that inside that li we have the ol. So here if you see, after li I have directly have another ol, ordered list, and I'm listing it. I did not put this ol inside li, but still the page is rendered without any problem. So some variations it will absorb. So if you want to have exactly similar to what we have here, so what I don't have is this li. Just I will add that. We will see if there is any difference. Use indentation so that it will help you. We will understand it very easily. I added. Now inside this OL is inside this LI. I have saved that HTML. I will reload. So you can see we got a 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. If it depends on how you want, whether you want this to come as a 4 or you really want these things under my solutions. It depends on you, how you wanted it, and according to that you can do it. Okay. Certain character entities. These are the special characters for the symbols. There is either no easy way to type in via the keyboard or which have reserved meaning in the HTML. So suppose we want to have a certain characters which cannot be easily typed using the keyboard, or which has the special meaning for the HTML. Then if you want to include such symbols, then we have to use the entity name or the entity number. For example, if you want to include the space, okay, if there is any issue with using the space inside the HTML element, you can use the ampersand NBSP and forward ending with a semicolon. And if you want to use the copyright symbol, okay, copyright symbol we cannot easily enter with our keyboard. You can use this ampersand copy and semicolon. Whenever the browser sees these entity elements, entity names or the numbers, it will convert that into appropriate symbol. So here this will be converted into a space, this will be converted into an um, copyright symbol. So we have that copyright symbol in one of our example, the sample document. In the sample document, at the end you can say copyright, and we have the copyright symbol here. This copyright symbol is coming from the source code. I will show you the source code. See, copyright at copy semicolon. So this is how we are getting it. Whenever browser is rendering this page, when it encounters this entity name, it will convert it to that particular symbol and it will display. So this particular thing and copy semicolon is displayed as a copyright symbol. If it is not visible, just I will remove the small, rather I will make it as H3. Okay, that is not right thing to use here, but just I will change it to so that it is visible for you. You can see now copy at. Okay, this is the symbol, copyright symbol. HTML semantic elements. So semantic elements means which has a meaning. I told you HTML document is all about the structure, the meaning associated with that structure. So there are elements that are associated with the semantic. Those elements we are going to say. On substantial problem with the modern pre-HTML5 semantic markup, most complex websites are absolutely packed solid with the div elements. I told you because we want to have a logical grouping, the usage of the div is heavy in the website. There will be divs inside the divs inside the div, so it will be packed with the divs, and getting the meaning out of those logical divisions is very difficult. Unfortunately, all these div elements can make the resulting markup confusing and hard to modify. So first thing is, because we have used so many divs, it will become very difficult to understand and it is very confusing. And if you have to make a modification, it is very difficult to make a modification. Developers typically try to bring some sense and order to the div chaos by using ID or class names that provide some clue to their meaning. So one of the way how it can be the confusion can be reduced is using the ID. So we can give the ID name, ID or the class name for each of the division. By giving those ID, we can make ID description. It is easily understandable why you have that particular division. So that is how the developers are able to reduce some complexity of understanding. But HTML5 has come up with so many other semantic elements which are useful, which will reduce number of divs. For example, here you can see a HTML document. This is written in XHTML5. You have body, starting of the body, ending of the body. Div ID is equal to header. So you are having a division here that will say it is a header. Okay, and inside that you have another division. ID is equal to logo headings. So you want to include a logo. That's why you have another division here. Then you have another division. ID is equal to top navigation. For the top navigation, you have included all the HTML elements here. Then you have this division for the main page. So ID is equal to main. This has the all the main information. If you see for each of the division, either they have used the ID or the class. Okay, here class is equal to content. So you can see every division they have a ID or the class. That is how they are able to understand each of these divisions, why they are used and what grouping it is making. If you compare this one with the HTML5, we have a header HTML tag that is a replacement for this one. Okay, div ID is equal to header. So you need not have this div ID is equal to header. Instead of that, you can directly use the header. The next one is the inside the heading. We have the header group. So logo heading is there. This can be replaced using the HG group. That is HG group element that is available. And for the navigation purpose, you have a top navigation ID. Instead of that, we have the HTML element in HTML5 called as NAV. We can use the nav. Okay, this complete comes under the header. Then see here also we can use the navigation. Then for article, so here you have certain story. Division class is a story. Okay, fifth one is the class content. So fifth one is, this is the content. Whatever the content you want to have, you can have a section. So section is the HTML5 which is used for replacing the content. If you want to have a content, you can use a section. So under the section you have more articles. So for section example, I would say like you have a application which provides a news. So in the news, the sections can be politics, section can be sports, section can be finance. So you can have a different section. So that is a logical meaning of the section. Inside the section, you have the story, right? Here you have the story. That story can be replaced using the article. We in HTML5 we have a tag called the article that can be used. And 7, you can see here div class story photo. For having the image, they are using a division. Instead of having a division like that, we can use the a figure. We have a figure. This is the beginning of the figure and this is the end of the figure, and we have figure caption. So this particular semantic HTML element can be used instead of using this particular division. Then what we have is photo caption. So instead of using a photo caption, we have fig caption. We can have opening fig caption and closing fig caption. So this will give a caption for the whatever the image you have included. Then you have a division class related stuff on right. So it is for the right panel. Whatever is on the right panel, you have a separate division and you have created a class called related hyphen stuff on hyphen right. Instead of that, you can have aside. Okay, aside HTML tag can be used. Then at the end, you have a footer. Div ID is equal to footer. That can be replaced using a footer HTML5 tag. So this is the example how you have to write if you had to use the XHTML. This is much simplified. If you look at the right hand side, we have additional HTML elements, semantic elements, which will give a very cleaner information. Now you are looking at the header, you know, this is the header information. Then this is the header group you have. Then navigation, whatever the navigation related things will go here. Then you have the main. Okay, for the main they have used division, div id main. Then you have the section. Okay, inside the section I have article, and inside the article, if I want to use the images, I have the figure. For giving the caption for the figure images, I have fig caption. Then whatever goes on the right hand side panel, I have aside. And if there is anything that needs to be included in the footer, I have the footer HTML element. So whatever the description we saw there, we are going to see it here. The header and the footer, header and the footer, these are the HTML element. Most websites have a recognizable header and the footer section. Typically, what goes in the header section is the logo, site, your website or the web application logo, title, perhaps if there are any additional subtitles or taglines, that will go here. Horizontal navigation links, all the navigation links that you see, that will go in the header. Perhaps one or two horizontal banners, if you have any banners, that can be included in the header. What contained in the footer? Okay, very less important material, just you want to have those information, smaller text versions of the navigation. For example, you saw the copyright related information. We don't want to show it in a very big text. That would be in the a small text. Smaller text version of the navigation, copyright notices, information about the site's privacy policy, and perhaps Twitter feeds or links and other social sites. So all this information can go in the footer. Both HTML5 header footer elements can be used not only for page headers and footers, they can also be used for header and footer elements within other HTML5 containers such as article or section. So when we are using header and the footer, this need not be just used for the HTML document. It can be used for the other HTML elements such as article or section. You can have, for example, here inside the article, you see we have a header and a if required, you can use the footer. In the header, if there is a need to have a header for this article, all those information will go here. Then heading groups, that is in the header you have groups. You want to have a more grouping there, you can use the HG group. HG group element can be used to group related headings together within one container. You can see here, this is the header and I have a header group. So whatever elements that are related, if you want to group them together, you can have a HG group. Inside article, you can say HG group. Navigation elements, whenever you want to have the navigational elements, that you can put it inside the NAV HTML element. So we'll easily come to know where are our navigational elements. So whichever navigation you want to put, you can directly put in the NAV inside the NAV HTML elements. NAV element represents a section of the page that contains links to other pages or other parts within the same page. Like the other new HTML5 semantic elements, the browser does not apply any special presentation to NAV element. So NAV element, it does not have any appearance influence. Meaning of that, if you use NAV, appearance will not change. Okay, but NAV is used for having all the navigational things, all the navigational links inside the NAV, grouping of the all the navigational links. NAV element was intended to be used for major navigation blocks, presumably the global and the secondary navigation system. This is one example. In this header, I have some navigational elements. I include them under NAV. NAV role is equal to navigation. These are used for the navigation purpose. Then I have the unordered list UL. So this will come as a dots, right? Each of these will come with a dot. You will have home dot about us dot browse. Okay, and each of those will have a link. The first home will link it to the index.html. About us, if you click, it will take you to the about.html. Browse, if you click on that, it will take you to the browse.html page. Then articles and sections. We can have article element represents a section of a content that forms an independent part of a document or a site. For example, a magazine or a newspaper article or a blog entry. So that is how I give the example of the newspaper, where each of the story you can call them as a article, right? For example, to understand the section elements represent the section of a document, typically with a title or a heading. So if you take a web application which has a news information, I would say a section would be political news, geographical news, or global world news, then sports news, finance news. Those are the section. And inside each of these section, we will have many stories or the articles. For example, I have a sports section. Inside the sports section, I have many articles. Article about cricket, article about football, article about tennis, article about there are so many stories or the articles that can go inside the this section. Articles according to W3C, World Wide Web Consortium, section is much broader element, while article element is to be used for the blocks of contents that could be potentially be read or consumed independently of other content on the page. So article section is a very broader element. I told you how we can classify the news as a sections, and article can be like a block of information. It's a block of information. It can be associated with a section, or it can be an independent story or an independent article. Sections versus divs. Okay, this is the group what WG working group specification wants readers that section element is not a generic container element. HTML already has a div element for such users. So section is not meant for a generic grouping. For generic grouping, we have to use the already it is available as a div. Div element should be used whenever we want to have a generic container or a generic group. Section should be used for the a specific implementation. Okay, whenever there is a need for the section, you have to use the section. Whenever you want to have a generic grouping, you can use the div. When an element is needed only for styling purpose or a convenience for scripting, it makes sense to use div element. When we can use div element, it is only needed for the some styling purpose or some convenience of the scripting purposes, you can use div. Another way help you to decide whether or not to use section element is to ask yourself if it is appropriate for the elements contents to be listed explicitly in the document's outline. So you can ask this question. This answer will tell you whether you can use it as a section or you can use it as a div. If if answer is yes, then use it as a section. Otherwise, use it as a div. Next is the figure and the figure caption. Wherever you want to use the relevant images. For example, you have an article about sports and you want to use certain picture of that story. Then you have to use the figure. That particular image has a relevance, semantic meaning with that article. This is not used for the general purpose image. For example, general purpose of using images, you want to have some background image. Okay, you want to have some kind of images on the border. So then you should not use the figure. Figure is not for the a presentation purpose, not for the display purpose. Figure is a semantic element. Whenever it is relevant to be used, image should be used, then you will use the figure HTML element. And If it has a caption, you can use the figure caption HTML element. So figure and figure caption, these are the HTML element. W3C recommendation indicates that figure element can be used not just for the images, but for any type of essential content that could be moved to a different location in the page or document, and the rest of the document would still make sense. So as I told you, the figure has to be used with the relevance. So there should be semantic meaning of using figure. If you are using the image for the general purposes, okay, for a background or some element, you want to show that particular image, so there is no semantic relevance, then you should use the img, otherwise you should use the figure. Figure and figure caption. Figure element should not be used to wrap every image. So we should not wrap every image, because if it is relevant for the HTML document from the semantic perspective, we have to use the figure. For instance, it makes no sense to wrap site logo or non-essential images such as banner, ads, and graphical embellishments within figure elements. So these are the example. Logo, we have site logo, or some banners we have. Those things should not be included in the figure element. Instead, only use the figure elements for circumstances where the image or other content has a caption, and where the figure is essential to the content, but its position on the page is relatively unimportant. So as I told you the example, you have an article, news article for the cricket, or it is about a certain match. Then you want to include the pictures of those match. Then it make those images are relevant to the content of that particular article. Then you can use the figure element, and along with that you can use the figure caption. So here is the example. This is a paragraph I have. This photo was taken on October and so and so. This is the end of the paragraph, and then I have the figure. So semantically this has a meaning for this particular website. That's why I have the figure, opening figure and the closing figure. Inside that I have the image, okay, and I have the figure caption. Figure caption says conservatory pond in Central Park. So this is how it should be used. Aside, whatever aside element is similar to the figure element, that is used for marking up the content that is separate from the main content on the page. So aside, as the name suggests, whatever content is on the main page, if you want to have apart from that main content, you can use the aside. But while the figure element was used to indicate important information whose location on the page is somewhat unimportant, aside element represents section of a page that consists of content that is tangentially related to the content around the aside element. So aside element could thus be used for sidebars, pull quotes, groups of advertising images, any other grouping of non-essential elements. So apart from the main content, whatever the main content your web application is intended for, apart from that, if you have any other information, maybe as a sidebar, okay, or the bottom bar, you can include that particular information using aside. So that is the end of the first half of the module 1. In the next class we will look into the CSS. What is CSS?